Happy Wednesday, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to another amazing Educational Wednesday. So today's video, we're going to continue that 6 principles of Contagious that the book talked about. The first one was social currency. Today we're actually be talking about the second one, which is triggers. So triggers are not like trigger warning, all that stuff. Triggers are, he just talks about what triggers you to think about that product. What triggers you in the environment to make you think, or what connects you. So examples were, let's say an Oreo, right? When you eat Oreos, you think of milk. Or when you have milk, you think of having an Oreo so you can dunk it. Another thing is, which I didn't hear about, is Kit Kat and coffee. So apparently when you have a coffee, you want to have a Kit Kat bar. So that's another thing, right? It helps you remind. So when you have one item, you think about the other one. Another great analogy is the song Friday by Rebecca Black. Right? Everyone hated that song. No one liked it. It was bad. It didn't have any rhythm, whatever. From a musical standpoint, it was just terrible. But it got so many views. It was trending for so long. It had millions and millions of views just because of one thing. Triggers. So what do I mean by that? Well, see what the song is. It's called Friday, right? Like it's Friday, everyone get down on Friday, right? Oh, I'm gonna get hate for this. Look, so listen to how it's Friday. Now, when do you think the most amount of people actually watched her music video? Was it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? Or Saturday, Sunday? It was most likely Friday, and it shows that her views, even though they spiked, they usually went up on Fridays every single time. Why? Because it was Friday. People were like, oh, it's Friday today. Oh, hey, remember that song, Rebecca Black? Hey, we should play that, right? So it was that trigger that when Friday came along, you thought about the song because the song was named Friday and it's sung about it being Friday. And so because it's Friday and you're in Friday, now you're thinking about, oh, wow, it's Rebecca Black, so we could listen to her song, right? That's why, like, when I do Motivational Monday, Educational Wednesday, Book Review Friday, eventually I'm trying to build those triggers to remind you that, hey, it's Wednesday, it's Educational Wednesday day. Things like that is you're pulling triggers because you remind people based off of days, based off of months, things they see, any kind of thing that they see. Like, right? Like with an Oreo. You see an Oreo, you think of milk. So another interesting point on triggers is actually the fact that Walt Disney, his Disney World is, you would think that it's so huge that millions and millions of people visit every single day or every single year. You would think that it's talked about a lot more than a box of cereal called Cheerios, right? But you'd be wrong. Cheerios are actually more word of mouth talked about than Disney World. Why? Because triggers, people see it. It's on top of your mind all the time. You had breakfast in the morning, you had cereals. Great, now you want to talk about, because what did you have for breakfast? Oh, I had cereals, right? But how many times do you actually go to Disney World or go on vacation to actually talk about it? You might talk about it for a month or two before or after your vacation, but after that, you sort of continue on with life. But you always, in the morning, you're always eating breakfast, you're always eating Cheerios. Well, then you get to talk about a lot more than you're going to talk about Disney World. It's just those triggers right there. It's breakfast where you eat Cheerios, right? Just breakfast time. Okay, cereal. Okay, yogurt, right? So just because you're having breakfast or lunch, you're reminded of different foods, different things. Just like if you're walking down the street, let's say I walk down from Chicago. If I smell Chinese food, if I smell Mexican food, if I smell whatever kind of food, it triggers me. Oh, Chinese, that sounds very good, right? You sometimes smell foods and you're just like, man, that looks good. I would love to have that. Right? Or you see something and you're reminded of food. You see a hamburger and you're like, oh man, my favorite burger joint is open. I should go. So those triggers where you see some kind of image, you smell something, your senses are triggered at some point. It triggers you to a specific item or something that you actually care about, something that is interesting to you. Right? So those are like environment kind of triggers where if you see someone walking a dog, it might remind you, hey, I always wanted to adopt a dog. Or you see someone biking, like, hey, I want to get back into biking. I want to go back into exercising. So it pulls these triggers from environments. Another one is, if we look at the Mars, the candy bar, in the mid 1997s, its sales actually increased randomly. Like, there was no change to advertisement, no change to anything, but Mars, the candy bar, actually increased in mid 1997. Why was that? Well, because NASA was actually going and planning out Mars and space travel and stuff like that. And so because those huge sort of outlets and more people talking about NASA and space, they connected it back to the Mars, the candy bar, right? It's such an interesting way of, oh wow, we can go back and it triggers you to want to go get the candy bar of Mars. One last analogy would be peanut butter. If you look at a peanut butter jar, what's the next thing you think of? Jelly. Peanut butter and jelly, right? Peanut butter and jelly sandwich. See how they're triggering you? You instantly see peanut butter, you see jelly, and you're like, the opposite would be great on that as well. It goes together because there's a trigger. You're emotionally set and wired to think of that because you're so used to having something like that. Another thing, so moving on from different items and foods, let's look at a company called Buzz Agents, BZZ Agents. So Buzz Agents, what they do is, it's a company where basically you sign up. People don't get paid for this. You just sign up, tell them what kind of things you like, preferences, and then when a company comes to that agency and asks them, hey, I have this toothpaste, or hey, when the author actually talks about almond milk, hey, I have almond milk. I want you guys to, here's some coupons. I want people to go out, buy them, and try it out. So people go, and then they, buy the product, and they talk about it. There's no, they're not getting paid, nothing. They just, they could talk about what they just, the only thing they do is share. They're not forced to share with anyone. They're not forced to actually try the product. They just, on their own free will, if they like the product, they'll talk about it. So like the author talks about, hey, I like almond milk. I didn't like regular milk. And so I'm going to tell people that don't like regular milk about almond milk, and I'll probably give them, and I had coupons that I can give them, so here's like $2 off, $1 off, to encourage them to actually get almond milk, right? So you're getting these products, and you're able to try them out, and then spread the words from your own perspective. You're free to talk about it however you want. You're not forced to be, you're not getting paid for it, so you're not forced to actually talk about how it's awesome. No, you're forced to do nothing. You can just decide to talk to people about it because you actually like the product, or you don't have to talk to anyone if you don't like the product. That's word of mouth, and that has actually helped companies grow their brand a lot better than paid advertisement and stuff like that, because word of mouth, as we talked about in the book review, and the first principle is the biggest form of advertisement out there, right? Even online social media is still not able to compete with word of mouth because we interact with humans more, and we talk to more people than we do online. And it's a totally different field. So, closing off this statement though, there's one last thing I wanted to talk about. So the last thing I want to talk about, I'm going to read it off here, is another trigger that they were talking about, right? So when you do triggers, you don't want to, people, if they know, right, if there's a big line, people associate that with, okay, this might be good. So one thing on triggers here, that he talks about is slogans. So there's actually a school and they're doing a test. So there was two groups of students. One group of students was given this slogan: live the healthy way, eat 5 fruits and veggies a day. But now another group was given the slogan: each and every dining hall tray needs 5 fruits and veggies a day. See the difference? One talks about live the healthy way, eat 5 fruits and veggies a day. The other one talks about each and every dining hall tray. So each time they went to the dining hall, because they're students, on their tray, they needed 5 fruits and veggies. Right? But the first one actually sounded a lot better. It sounded a lot cooler. The second one sounded a little bit, the students didn't really like it. It sounded dumb. It wasn't really cool. But guess what? The students that didn't actually have the slogan about living healthy and not about the tray, didn't put any fruits on the actual tray. But the ones that actually had the tray, I'm going to find actually here, they ate 25% more fruits and veggies as a result. So that trigger because when they went to go get food, they had a tray. So that instantly triggered them back to that slogan that they remembered. And since it was so corny and bad, they're just like, each tray needs 5 veggies, fruits and veggies a day. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Right? People know that you're supposed to eat more fruits and vegetables, but we still don't. And that's why when you have a trigger, when it reminds you, oh, I have a tray here, and right? Every tray needs 5 fruits and vegetables a day. Oh, okay. I have a tray. Fruits and vegetables. Let's go. Right? So this trigger where they have 2 different slogans, but it depends on how you say it, what kind of slogans you use, pull triggers and create triggers for students, for other people to then want to go out and actually remember it as they're picking out their food. It's like, oh man, that's right. Just like we said, every plate needs 5 fruits and vegetables. Now if you look at your plate, I need fruits and vegetables on this plate. Instead of just being eat 5 fruits and vegetables a day. It's these small things that pull triggers that make more people want to actually buy, eat, consume, whatever, the different products that are being triggered and reminded of. So in closing, the last thing I want to talk about is just think about how your product, your service, whatever, if you're a business owner, if you're a brand, whatever, how can you create triggers in everyday, in people's everyday environments that they can remember and think of you? What kind of triggers can you use, right? With Kit Kat and coffee. Every day, millions and millions of Americans drink coffee. If you can trigger that to a Kit Kat bar, boom, you have that trigger. People remember that. When they're buying coffee, they might go to the store and get a Kit Kat bar. Same thing, it could be anything. If they see a sign of a book, do they get triggered to remember your book or your book reviews? Think of something, right? Think of something that's going to be unique and easy to trigger and remember as a way to trigger your product to someone else's everyday life. So then when most people see that, they get triggered back to your product and you're more likely to get more sales because people are constantly being reminded of your product. So with that being said, that was the second principle of Contagious. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you enjoyed the second principle. It's actually really interesting to read about. So definitely still highly recommend checking out the book, seeing how it is, and giving it a go. But with that being said, hopefully you enjoyed this video. My name was David Mechura, and I'll see you guys in another one of my videos. Peace out.